My friends, I stand before you today with a message that speaks to the heart of what it means to be a man, not just in body, but in spirit, in mind, and in purpose. There is a crisis among men today, a crisis not of strength, not of ability, but of focus. Too many men have turned their eyes away from their calling, away from their purpose, and instead have set their hearts on fleeting pleasures, temporary distractions, and empty pursuits. A weak man is not weak because he was born that way. No. He is weak because he has surrendered his focus. He has given up his mission, his growth, his responsibilities, and instead he chases after what he believes will bring him fulfillment. He believes that if he wins the affection of a woman, if he gains the approval of another, then he will find peace. But I tell you the truth. No man will ever find his strength in the arms of another. No man will ever build a life of purpose while his eyes are fixed on temporary pleasure. Look at the world today. Men who were created to lead, to build, to establish, to conquer the challenges set before them have instead become distracted. They spend their time chasing attention, craving validation, seeking approval, and looking for love before they have built anything worth giving. Instead of working, they wander. Instead of creating, they consume. Instead of leading, they follow. A weak man desires love, but he has not prepared himself to be worthy of it. He wants respect, but he has done nothing to earn it. He wants companionship, but he has not built himself into someone who can provide, protect, and lead with confidence. He believes that love will fix his brokenness, but my friends, love does not heal a man who refuses to grow. A relationship does not complete a man who has not completed his mission. Let me ask you, what is your purpose? What have you been called to do? You were not placed here to waste away your days in pursuit of fleeting pleasures. You were not created to live in a cycle of desperation, seeking validation from others, when you were designed to be strong, to stand firm, and to build something greater than yourself. A man who has purpose does not chase, he attracts. A man who has built himself does not beg for attention, he commands respect by the way he lives. I say to you today, do not be the man who wastes his life waiting for someone else to give him meaning. Do not be the man who seeks comfort instead of growth, who pursues distraction instead of discipline. The world does not respect a man who is lost. The world respects a man who knows who he is, who knows where he is going, and who is willing to put in the work to get there. The weak man says, if only I had someone to love me, then I would be happy. But the strong man says, I will build my life first. I will grow, I will lead, and in time the right people will join me on my journey. A man who is focused on his mission will always rise above the one who is focused on his emotions. Too many men are looking for love before they have learned to love themselves. Too many men are searching for someone to save them when they have not yet saved themselves from their own bad habits, their own laziness, their own distractions. A woman is not meant to be your motivation. Your mission is meant to be your motivation. A woman is not meant to give your life meaning. And when you walk in that purpose, the right relationships will follow. Now let me tell you what happens when a man shifts his focus. When he stops chasing and starts building. When he stops looking for someone else to complete him and starts completing the work he was called to do. He becomes strong, he becomes disciplined, he becomes respected. He becomes a man that others look up to, not because he sought approval, but because he sought excellence. A focused man does not beg for attention. He walks in confidence. A focused man does not lose himself in relationships. He leads them with wisdom. A focused man does not depend on another for his happiness. He finds joy in the life he has built, in the work he has done, in the mission he has committed himself to. The choice is yours. And I tell you this, if you choose discipline over distraction, if you choose growth over comfort, if you choose purpose over pleasure, you will become the kind of man who does not need to chase. because what you have built will attract everything that was meant for you. So rise up, take back your focus, walk in your purpose, and never again let yourself be distracted by things that will never build you into the man you were created to be. A weak man prioritizes seeking validation over building his purpose, wasting time on approval instead of growth. He finds himself constantly looking outward, searching for confirmation that he is enough, rather than looking inward to develop the qualities that would make him truly valuable. His sense of self-worth is tied to how others perceive him, and as a result, he becomes dependent on the opinions of those around him. He desires to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be praised. But he does not realize that this endless pursuit keeps him from ever becoming the man he was meant to be. From an early age, many men are conditioned to seek external validation. They are taught, whether through society, media, or personal experiences, that their worth is measured by how others respond to them. They crave admiration from peers, attention from women, and approval from authority figures. When a man places his sense of value in the hands of others, he becomes a slave to their expectations. He begins to mold himself to fit an image that will win him the most approval, even if that image is far from his true identity. In doing so, he sacrifices his authenticity, his independence, and his ability to forge his own path. A man who prioritizes validation becomes fearful of rejection. He avoids risk, not because he lacks potential, but because he dreads the possibility of failure in the eyes of others. He hesitates to step out of his comfort zone, afraid that if he tries and does not succeed, he will lose the admiration he so desperately seeks. This fear keeps him stagnant. He does not push himself to grow, to improve, to strive for greatness, because his focus is not on progress, but on perception. He would rather maintain an illusion of competence than embrace the process of becoming truly competent. He is easily swayed by trends, by popular opinion, by whatever will earn him the most attention in the moment. Instead of standing firm in his beliefs, he bends to fit whatever will make him the most liked. He has no solid foundation because his identity is built on the shifting sands of approval. One day he presents himself as one kind of man. The next, he changes to fit the expectations of a different crowd. This lack of stability makes him unreliable, both to himself and to others. He cannot lead because he is too busy following. He cannot inspire because he has not yet become someone worth following. A man consumed by validation often finds himself in a cycle of chasing relationships, particularly with women, as a way to reinforce his self-worth. He believes that if he can gain attention, affection, or admiration from the opposite sex, it will confirm his value. He spends hours, days, even years prioritizing the pursuit of romantic attention over the pursuit of personal excellence. Instead of working on his goals, developing his skills, or creating something meaningful, he is caught up in proving his desirability. He believes that his success is measured by how many people approve of him rather than by what he has built with his own hands. This kind of man often finds himself deeply insecure. No matter how much validation he receives, it is never enough. The attention he sought so desperately brings only temporary satisfaction before he needs more. He becomes addicted to approval, constantly seeking new ways to feel validated. He might chase more relationships, exaggerate his achievements, or put on a facade of confidence, but deep down, he is empty. He has neglected the only validation that truly matters, the validation that comes from knowing he has lived with purpose, integrity, and self-mastery. A man who seeks validation over purpose becomes a passive participant in his own life. He does not take control of his destiny because he is too focused on how others perceive him. Instead of making bold decisions, he waits for reassurance. Instead of taking responsibility, he looks for excuses. Instead of building something lasting, he invests in temporary gratification. He lacks direction because his focus is not on where he is going, but on who is watching. The world does not reward men who seek validation. It rewards men who create, who build, who take risks, who lead. A man who spends his life chasing approval will always be at the mercy of those who grant it. He will never feel fully satisfied because he has placed his sense of worth outside of himself. True confidence, true strength, and true fulfillment come not from how others see him, but from what he has cultivated within himself. True strength comes from self-discipline and mission, not from chasing temporary relationships for fulfillment. A man who lacks direction will often find himself wandering through life, searching for meaning in places that can never truly satisfy him. He believes that if he can find someone to love him, someone to validate him, then he will finally feel complete. He spends his energy pursuing relationships, thinking they will give him the confidence and purpose he lacks. But in doing so, he neglects the very thing that would make him truly strong: his own development, his own mission, his own discipline. A man without self-discipline is easily swayed by his emotions, his impulses, and his desires. He does what feels good in the moment rather than what is necessary for his growth. He lacks the ability to delay gratification, to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term success. He allows himself to be led by fleeting attractions rather than by a deeper sense of purpose. His days are dictated by how he feels rather than by a clear vision of where he wants to go. Without discipline, he is unstable, unreliable, and unable to build anything of real value. A mission gives a man direction. It gives him a reason to wake up early, to work hard, to push through challenges. When a man has a mission, he is not easily distracted. He is not consumed by the need for constant validation because he is focused on something greater than himself. He understands that his purpose is not found in another person, but in the impact he makes, the work he creates, the legacy he leaves behind. A man with a mission does not waste his time chasing relationships because he knows that the right people will come into his life as a result of the life he is building. A man who lacks discipline and mission often finds himself feeling empty, no matter how many relationships he pursues. He believes that love will fill the void inside of him, but no amount of affection can replace the fulfillment that comes from living with purpose. When a man lacks direction, he leans on relationships to give him a sense of identity. He depends on others to make him feel valuable instead of developing the qualities that would make him truly valuable. He becomes desperate for attention, for approval, for companionship, not because he truly loves others, but because he does not yet love himself. A disciplined man, however, does not seek relationships to complete him. He is already complete within himself. He does not rely on external validation to feel strong because his strength comes from within. He has mastered his emotions, his habits, his mindset. He does not allow distractions to pull him away from his mission. He is focused, committed, and unshaken by temporary setback. His discipline gives him power over his own life, and that power allows him to achieve things that a man consumed by distraction never could. When a man prioritizes discipline and mission over chasing relationships, he naturally becomes more attractive, more respected, more admired. He does not need to prove his worth because his actions speak for themselves. He does not need to seek validation because he has already validated himself through his achievements. Women are drawn to men with purpose, not to men who are desperate for attention. A man who is dedicated to his mission is not easily swayed by temporary pleasures, and that makes him more desirable, more trustworthy, and more confident. Weak men believe that happiness comes from external sources, from relationships, from approval, from the attention of others. Strong men understand that happiness is built from within. It is forged through discipline, through struggle, through perseverance. A man who is truly strong does not waste his energy on meaningless pursuits. He does not chase after things that will not last. He builds his life with intention, with focus, with determination. He invests in himself, in his growth, in his purpose. A man who is consumed by relationships will always be at the mercy of those relationships. He will feel lost when things do not go his way. He will struggle with insecurity, with doubt, with uncertainty. But a man who has built himself through discipline will remain steady no matter what happens around him. His confidence does not come from who is in his life, but from what he has achieved. His fulfillment does not come from external validation, but from the satisfaction of knowing he has done the work to become the best version of himself. A man who lives without self-discipline will always feel like something is missing. He will try to fill that void with distractions, with relationships, with anything that can temporarily ease his discomfort. But no amount of external pleasure can replace the deep, lasting fulfillment that comes from living with purpose. A man who has a mission does not need to chase temporary relationships for fulfillment, because his fulfillment comes from something far greater than momentary validation. A man who focuses on personal development, leadership, and success naturally attracts respect and meaningful connections. He understands that the foundation of his life is not built on external approval, but on the internal work he puts into himself. He recognizes that growth is not accidental, it is intentional, requiring discipline, consistency, and vision. Instead of seeking validation from others, he invests in himself, knowing that the more he develops, the more valuable he becomes, not just to himself, but to those around him. His presence alone commands respect, not because he demands it, but because he has earned it through the effort he has put into becoming a man of substance. Personal development is the cornerstone of his journey. He does not wake up each day aimlessly wandering through life, hoping that success will find him. He actively pursues knowledge, skill building, and self-mastery. He reads, he learns, he practices, he refines. He understands that stagnation is the enemy and that every day wasted in complacency is a day lost in his pursuit of greatness. He does not make excuses for where he is in life because he knows that he alone is responsible for shaping his future. When he faces setbacks, he does not wallow in self-pity, but instead uses them as opportunities to learn and improve. He embraces the struggles, knowing that they are necessary for his growth. A man who focuses on leadership does not wait for others to guide him. He steps up, takes responsibility, and leads by example. Leadership is not about power or dominance, but about influence, about the ability to inspire and uplift those around him. He understands that true leadership is rooted in service, in the willingness to take on challenges, to make difficult decisions, and to bear the weight of responsibility. People look to him not because he speaks the loudest, but because his actions reflect wisdom, confidence, and integrity. He does not seek shortcuts or the easy path. He embraces the reality that true success requires effort, sacrifice, and perseverance. He does not envy those who have achieved great things. Instead, he studies them, learns from them, and applies those lessons to his own journey. He does not waste time comparing himself to others because he is too busy improving himself. He knows that success is not about being better than someone else, but about being better than he was yesterday. He sets goals and follows through with disciplined execution. He builds his future with patience and persistence, understanding that meaningful accomplishments do not come overnight, but through consistent effort over time. Because he is focused on growth and success, he naturally attracts respect. People admire a man who is dedicated, disciplined, and purpose-driven. He does not need to seek attention because his work and his character speak for him. He does not need to convince others of his worth because his actions prove it. He becomes the kind of man that others look up to, not because he tries to be impressive, but because he simply lives in a way that is admirable. Meaningful connections come to him not because he chases them, but because he creates an environment where they flourish naturally. The right people, mentors, friends, business partners, and even romantic relationships are drawn to him because they see value in who he is. He does not settle for shallow interactions or temporary validation. He surrounds himself with those who push him to be better, who challenge him, who share his vision for growth and success. His relationships are built on mutual respect and shared purpose rather than neediness or desperation. When a man invests in his own development, he becomes someone who can contribute to the lives of others rather than someone who takes from them. He does not enter relationships looking for someone to complete him because he is already whole. He does not seek approval because he has already approved of himself through the work he has done. He does not rely on external validation because he has built an unshakable foundation of self-worth based on discipline, effort, and achievement. The world respects men who respect themselves enough to grow, to lead, to strive for something greater than themselves. Those who neglect their own development find themselves constantly chasing approval, attention, and acceptance, never realizing that true fulfillment comes from within. A man who prioritizes his personal growth, leadership, and success stands firm in who he is, unaffected by the distractions that consume weaker men. His focus on becoming the best version of himself ensures that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right relationships will come to him naturally. A man's true strength is not found in the pursuit of external validation, but in the mastery of himself. When a man allows his energy to be consumed by the need for approval, by the endless chase of attention, by the pursuit of fleeting relationships, he weakens himself from within. He becomes a servant to the opinions of others rather than a leader of his own destiny. He wastes precious time on things that do not add value to his life, on distractions that do not serve his future, on temporary pleasures that leave him feeling emptier than before. He lives not as a man of purpose, but as a man who is lost, searching for something outside of himself to give him meaning. But meaning is not something that can be given. It must be built. It must be forged through discipline, through struggle, through commitment to a higher calling. A weak man spends his days seeking what he thinks will make him whole. He believes that if he can capture the attention of women, if he can impress others, if he can be liked, then somehow he will feel complete. But this is a deception, a trap that keeps him in a cycle of insecurity and dependence. No amount of external validation can replace the deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing he has done the work to become the best version of himself. No relationship, no approval, no admiration from the outside world can fill the void inside a man who has not yet discovered his own purpose. Strength is not about seeking, it is about becoming. A man who is truly strong understands that his time, his energy, his focus must be invested in things that build him up, not in things that drain him. He understands that the foundation of his life is not built on the opinions of others, but on his own principles, his own vision, his own relentless pursuit of excellence. He does not allow himself to be distracted by meaningless pursuits because he knows that every moment wasted is a moment he can never get back. His mission is too important, his future too valuable, his potential too great to squander on things that do not matter. Discipline is what separates the weak from the strong. A man who lacks discipline will always be at the mercy of his impulses, his emotions, his fleeting desires. He will never build anything lasting because he is too focused on what feels good in the moment rather than what is necessary for his long-term success. He will never lead because he is too easily led by the distractions around him. But a disciplined man, a man who has control over his actions, over his thoughts, over his habits, becomes unshakable. He does not need to seek approval because his own actions validate him. He does not need to chase relationships because his value is evident in the life he has built. He becomes the kind of man that others respect, not because he demands it, but because he has earned it. A man who has a mission is unstoppable. When a man is focused on a purpose greater than himself, he does not have time for distractions. He does not have time for petty validation, for shallow relationships, for meaningless pursuits. He is too busy building, creating, leading, improving. His mission becomes his driving force, the thing that pushes him forward even when things get difficult. He does not quit when faced with challenges because he understands that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. He does not settle for mediocrity because he knows he is capable of more. He is not concerned with impressing others because he is too busy working on becoming the best version of himself. When a man focuses on growth, success, and leadership, everything else falls into place. The right people enter his life not because he chases them, but because he chases them, but because he has become the kind of man who naturally attracts respect and admiration. He does not need to prove himself because his actions speak louder than words. He does not need to seek approval because his results are undeniable. He does not need to chase relationships because meaningful connections come to those who have built themselves into men of value. A man who prioritizes his purpose over distractions is a man who will leave a legacy. He is not concerned with temporary pleasures because he is focused on something much greater. He does not waste his energy on things that do not serve his future because he understands that his time is the most valuable asset he has. He invested himself in his growth and his goals, knowing that this is the path to true fulfillment. He does not settle for being average because he knows he was created for more. The world is filled with weak men. Men who have abandoned their potential, who have allowed themselves to be consumed by distractions, who have traded greatness for comfort. But the world does not remember weak men. It does not honor those who live their lives seeking approval, chasing validation, and wasting their days on things that did not matter. The world remembers the strong. It remembers those who built something, who led with courage, who lived with purpose. It remembers the men who refused to be distracted, who refused to be weak, who refused to waste their lives on things that did not serve them. Every man has a choice. He can choose to be weak, to live in distraction, to waste his potential, or he can choose to be strong, to build himself up, to focus on his purpose, and refuse to be led by anything other than his own vision. Strength is not given, it is earned. Respect is not demanded, it is cultivated. Success is not wished for, it is built through relentless effort and unwavering commitment. A weak man focuses on things that do not matter. A strong man focuses on his mission, his growth, his destiny. A man who refuses to be weak, who refuses to waste his life on distractions, will rise above the rest. He will not be forgotten. He will not be ignored. He will not live a life of regret. He will become the man he was always meant to be.